What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing us a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best entertainment related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. The hype is building for the Outlast Trials, guys, as I have been stating on the YouTube channel now for a little while that this is one of my most anticipated horror games that's up and coming, and I've been really excited to see more information. And as more information has come out, obviously in the form of trailers and just news and such around this game, I'm very excited about the direction that they may be going here. There's still a lot of mystery there, which I think is actually a really good thing. And there's some question marks, though, as well as to how the execution of this game in particular is going to be. And so what I want to talk about in this first segment of the show is about everything that we want out of the Outlast Trials. And when I say we, guys, I'm going to be talking about myself mainly here, but some of you may share similar opinions to myself, and if you don't, I would love to hear your thoughts on what you want to see in the Outlast Trials in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So guys, as I said, the Outlast Trials, we've been talking about, this game now for a while. You guys can check out all of the previous Outlast Trials content that I've made on the YouTube channel at this point. And I think one of the big things, guys, that this game has kind of proposed is it kind of seems a little bit different. It's got some very unique, gameplay mechanics and such, in my opinion. When I looked at the posters when those were first released, it looked like, you had all these characters had goggles on. And so the first thing that clicked in my mind was, is this a VR title? Which is what I thought. And to this day, I still kind of wonder, is it going to be something that is going to go on VR? Maybe it's not going to be exclusive to VR, but could it be something that's also a VR title? Because the developers have stated that the Outlast Trials has no ties to the other couple of Outlast games that have come out. It's kind of its own thing, even though it's within the same universe. It just isn't like a continuation or a direct sequel to the other two. It's based in the Cold War era, and I think that is going to the question mark that, for me at least, is that, you had the first Outlast come out, which was terrifying. Second one comes out, it was still a pretty terrifying experience, but it was not quite as good as the first one, at least in my opinion. I know some people like the second one more than the first, and, vice versa, but nonetheless, I think that they kind of maybe took a step back, looked at the landscape here of other horror games out there. They looked at, okay, the first two games in this franchise, what could we do that could kind of evolve this franchise in a way? And I think the Outlast Trials is exactly that. And I love kind of where the direction that they might be going in here. This terrifying experience going through like these trials and such during the Cold War era could be something really special. So the first thing, guys, that I want to see out of the Outlast Trials is, I want to see similarities to the other two Outlast games, but also significant differences. And I think we're definitely going to be getting differences, guys. I think that's one thing that we can definitely tell just from the trailer as a whole, as well as, some of the statements that the developers are talking about. I think that this is going to be different in ways, but it's still going to have that core, some of the gameplay mechanics and such of the original two Outlast games. And so I'm really excited about that moving into the Outlast Trials. So I want some differences. I want some similarities, but that leads me to obviously new locations, new characters, new enemies, and it looks like we're going to be getting all of those things in this game, guys. Now, when I say like new characters, we're obviously going to be getting new characters. We're obviously going to be getting new locations because none of it is it's not a direct sequel to the first two games, right? It's kind of its own thing. So you're going to be having some new characters. You're going to be having new locations. You're going to be having, new enemies as well, which I think is going to be great as a whole. But I think having even, ties in one way or another, whether there's like characters somehow, some way, or in some of these other, from the other two games, or maybe, parts of that, kudos to the other two games are in this game, or it kind of leads up to the other two games in one way, shape, or form would be really interesting as well. So that's another thing that I would like to see, where it's separate, but at the end of the story or end of, the Outlast Trials, it kind of sets up the next two games or the continuation of the Outlast Trials, whether that's a second game in the Outlast Trials or however that works would be really interesting. The next thing this leads me to, guys, being like a co-op game, they really are putting emphasis on this being a co-op experience, I think something that I would like to see in this is that, obviously you're going to have to work together as a team, but I think it's going to be important that, if you don't want to play with someone else, you can play by yourself, right? I think that's always important. Having more than one way to connect with the franchise or play a specific game is really important. I know that they're putting emphasis on co-op, similar to like what Ubisoft is doing with Rainbow Six Quarantine, but I hope it's not strictly co-op. I hope that you're able to play by yourself if you want, and you play like with an AI character or something throughout the course of the Outlast trials. Playing with your friends is obviously something that's really exciting too that you would want to do. So hopefully that there's multiple ways. It's not just co-op at this point. And that kind of leads me in the next thing. As far as the story elements of this go, I really hope that, as you're wearing these goggles and you see like it's all night vision and such, which is really, a cool concept, I hope the game isn't primarily shown through the lens of, night vision goggles. I hope there's elements of this where you see things just freely, and because I think it adds tension at times. Like, sure, the night vision goggles definitely add tension, right? And that element of surprise and those scares and such. But I think also having it more grounded sometimes, where you're able to see things with, just through your normal viewpoints, is really important as well. And so I hope they kind of mix it up, maybe 50-50, or I don't know exactly. I mean, when you have the goggles and the characters on the front cover of the Outlast trials at this point are wearing those goggles, right? And so they're kind of putting emphasis that you're probably going to primarily be looking through those goggles, which I just don't know if that's going to get annoying after a while, or if it's something that you just will get used to. So I'm kind of hoping it's kind of a mix between the two. Another thing I would love to see, guys, is, part of me wanted to see a semi-open world setting, but the more that I watched the trailer, I felt like not having an open world would probably make this just a more terrifying experience. Having like the close corridors, claustrophobic feel, I think is going to make this a very terrifying experience. You don't necessarily, with a game like the Outlast trials, are going to want to have time to be exploring and stuff, because the entire game is going to be filled with suspense that you're going to be, moving through corridors and tight hallways and claustrophobic crawl spaces and such. So I think that is absolutely the direction that they're probably going to go in. So I wouldn't want to see, really a semi-open world or a full open world, depending on maybe there's like slower elements of the game. And if there is, that would be kind of cool to see some, a semi-open world setting in this world just to kind of explore it more. But I don't know if you're going to have much time to explore, to really say the least. The next thing for me, guys, is multiplayer. So we know we're getting co-op, but having multiplayer elements, guys, I think is going to be really, really important. So the Outlast trials, guys, obviously being a terrifying kind of experience, I think it would be really cool if they took a page out of like the Gears of War book and they started adding like horde mode, where amounts of creatures and waves of enemies are coming at you, and you're able to play with your friends or with other people, across the world, and going up against waves of enemies like a horde mode in the Outlast trials would be really interesting. Or just PvP, where you're playing against other people out there. I think it would be an interesting, like the night vision and all of that could really make some interesting, engagements with other people out there. I think it could be something really special. And I think at the end of the day, guys, we don't know how long the Outlast trials are going to be, but I would assume that they're going to bring this game out. And then, it'll probably be hopefully a full package deal where you're getting co-op, multiplayer, and then the full campaign that you can play by yourself or with someone else. But I'm hoping it's going to be that. But I think that this is a franchise that could be primed for having all of those different ways that you can access the game. And we've seen in the past other big games out there, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare had a game mode where, in a multiplayer setting where it was through night vision. And so I think that you could take things like that within the Outlast trials and have like night vision game modes and such, which could really bring you back. Because at the end of the day, guys, you want to have more and more ways you come back and connect with the franchise. We talk about this all the time, and I think Outlast has done a pretty good job, but after the replay, value of the campaign, you might play it a couple of times and you want to have other ways you can connect with the franchise, and if you don't, you would probably move on to another game. So I'm hoping that it's a full package deal, guys, and that there's multiple multiplayer elements, co-op missions, you can play a co-op story if you want, or you go at it by yourself. But it seems like more and more horror games nowadays are going the co-op route, which I'm fine with, but I just hope that there's also the addition to being able to play it by yourself if you so choose. That's something that I think is really important. And the last one for me, guys, is, all in all, I think a lot of the Outlast trials, I don't think it's going to be a free-to-play game, but if it were free-to-play, I think this could really take the Outlast community and the fan base to the next level, because we all know that with AAA titles, guys, when they go free to play, we see significant growth most of the time because people will at least try it out. And there's going to be people who really like it, right? There's going to be people who want to try, going through the campaign, going through the story, going through, some of the co-op stuff, or going through like playing the multiplayer, which is going to keep you coming back over and over again. And if they have a free-to-play motto and then they add different types of microtransactions and such, it makes it more justified to put some money towards the game. And so a lot of people may very well do that, whether that be customizing their characters or getting customizable items, things of that nature. You could absolutely do within a game like the Outlast Trials. And so I don't think that they will go the route of free-to-play, but it seems like a game that could very well go in that direction. So those are the main things, guys. One other side note would be VR. I don't necessarily want this to be an exclusive VR title, which I don't believe it is, unless they've kind of led us astray somewhat. But I would like to have the option of playing this as a VR title because I think it just kind of fits with like their marketing and all of those things. And it looks like one of those games that could be a terrifying experience in VR. So I think having it on consoles, having it on PC, and having it on VR could just be more and more ways you can connect with it. And I think it could be, terrifying in VR as well as like those other, more traditional routes, of course, of being able to connect with this franchise. But that's just kind of a side note. I want to hear your guys' opinions, though. What are the things that you guys want out of the Outlast Trials? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more The Outlast Trials content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. A new game by Capcom that got announced, guys, is called Pragmata, which is slated for 2022. This is the newest IP by Capcom in over 4 years. And I gotta say, guys, there are some very interesting vibes you get to this just reveal trailer that they had. And I'm really actually quite intrigued and excited to hear more about this world as a whole and kind of where they're trying to go with this futuristic type of style game that gives you kind of a sense of, Death Stranding and other games kind of like Infinite Warfare and multiple games that kind of it reminds you of, but it kind of feels like it's going to be its own thing at the same time. I want to talk about the top 5 things that we want in Pragmata, and this is very premature, guys, obviously, because we don't know much about the story at this point, but I think that it's never too early to give your wish list on the things that we want out of Pragmata, and I think it's really important that we do this because, look, at the end of the day, this is going to be one of those games that I think could very well set up, the next generation of gaming, but not even more so than that. It can also kind of, raise the bar when we're talking about these futuristic types of games and psychological thrillers. And I think it could definitely raise the bar on a number of those just based on the reveal trailer alone. So let's talk about it, guys. So as I said, the top 5 things, guys, that, we want out of Pragmata. And, my opinion on my top 5 may be different than yours. And if they are, let me know in the comment section below what your top 5 things that you want out of Pragmata. So at number 1, guys, I really want Pragmata to be its own thing. And so what I'm getting at is that, look, it kind of has, looks kind of like Death Stranding, looks a little bit like Infinite Warfare, which is, one of the Call of Duty titles. It looks a little bit like a number of different games out there, but I want it to be its own thing. I want this to be one of those games that isn't just kind of like a copy and paste of what, has been successful in the past. I want it to really try to evolve the, the futuristic types of games. And it looks kind of like it's going to be futuristic, obviously. It looks like it's going to be somewhat psychological. It looks like there's going to be some mystery here, probably some open world elements as well, which I think is going to be really good. but I want it to be its own thing at the end of the day. Surprise us, Capcom. We want your new IP to be something that is, turned into a full-blown franchise like some of your franchises that you currently have, that being like Devil May Cry and Resident Evil. So that's number one. At number two, guys, for me, I want to see a semi-open to a full open world here, which I think they're insinuating we're going to most likely get. It looks like your character, which looks like the futuristic robot, is most likely who you are going to be controlling. Potentially you'll be controlling the girl that was in the trailer as well. It's hard to say, but most likely you're going to be that, that futuristic robot. I'm excited to see where that kind of goes, but I would love to see the semi-open world at least to a full open world would be absolutely awesome. It looks like things are going to take place on the moon. Things may also be taking place on Earth as well. And it looks like, there may be like kind of a tie between, what they're trying to do here. Like it's hard to tell in the trailer if, you're actually on Earth at first, because you kind of smash through like what looks to be like a satellite or some form of glass or something. So I don't know if they're trying to give you an impression that it's Earth, but it actually isn't. If you're on another galaxy, where are you exactly? It looks to be Earth, but at the same time, it looks like, maybe it's Earth, but kind of an evolved Earth. It's very hard to say, but nonetheless, I really want, at the end of the day, to have at least a semi-open world. I think we may very well get in full open world, which I would totally gladly embrace. At number three, guys, I think having multiplayer and co-op experiences, it looks like there's a potential to co-op. Maybe you as the guy in the suit or the robot, as well as the girl. There's maybe an element that, you can play co-op. One person plays the girl, person plays the robot. That might be a possibility. Having multiplayer elements, this looks like a game. It looks like it could be like a shooter almost, like a third-person shooter, or just like an RPG potentially. I think multiplayer in this, I kind of am getting at, like, there's a lot of ways that they could maybe do this as far as from a customizable standpoint, as well as having earnable items and stuff within a game like this. Very early, don't get me wrong, but I think that especially with a new IP like this, having multiplayer would be very good. And look, guys, when I'm talking about this, compared to other games that Capcom does, look at Devil May Cry. They've made a bunch of games up to this point and they don't have multiplayer, right? I think it could really help build that franchise and that fan base in a major way if Devil May Cry had multiplayer. So I think one way that they could do is to really get a kickstart on Pragmata is have multiplayer and co-op modes already built in. Then that brings me to number four, guys, which I kind of already alluded to, customizable options and items as well as earnable items. So what I'm getting at, guys, is in the multiplayer modes or even just campaign, right? From a co-op perspective, a single player story, from a multiplayer perspective, having multiple ways that you can customize your character, like the robot, being able to like customize your character, customizing like different earnable items, whether that be weaponry, whatever it is, guys. This feels so much like Death Stranding, but what they could do is go another, they could kind of go a whole, huge amount further than what Death Stranding did with multiplayer and co-op and such, which Death Stranding kind of kept you within, like the single player story essentially, whereas this could really take you to obviously different worlds and such, but also it could, have different customizable options, earnable items within the multiplayer modes and such. I think they could do something really special with this. I just hope that they go the extra mile with a game like this, especially because it's already slated for 2022. So you got a couple of years. And then coming in, guys, at number 5 is, something that I think this is kind of a two-part, segment here. I would like to, I just really want Capcom to surprise us here, right? I want there to be maybe similarities and kudos to other games in this, but I also want it to be, like I said, its own thing, but I really want them to surprise us in multiple ways. Lots of psychological elements to this game, it looks like. A lot of mystery here, maybe some different puzzles and such that they're very good at doing in Capcom games. And then overall, guys, having, multiplayer elements and such always helps as well. But I think as far as the story goes, I would love them just to surprise us. And then the second part of this is, could this be a free-to-play game? It's hard to say. I mean, most likely it's not going to be free-to-play. I think it would be pretty cool, though, to see this game, being brought out as a free-to-play IP for Capcom, because most of their games up to this point are, pay-to-play. It'd be interesting to see Pragmata, a new IP, their newest IP in 4 years, get that free to play. Everyone starts playing it. It could be something really special, in my opinion. But those are my top 5 things that I would like to see in Pragmata. And obviously, this list will probably change as we get closer and closer to the release. As more information comes out, I'll be sure to keep you guys all posted as that information comes out. And let me know, guys, what are your top 5 things that you want to see in Pragmata? Let me know. And for more Pragmata content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. We've talked on the YouTube channel about Tom Clancy's End War, guys. This was a game that I believed could have been a full-blown franchise in a major way. I've said this in the past that End War was beyond its time in a number of ways, which, you guys can check out all of those videos on the YouTube channel. I believe that End War was absolutely beyond its time from, just being able to, voice-activated controls and things of that nature really kind of set this game apart. Even to this very day, a lot of other games out there haven't done what End War did. And even being based on like a console and such, really made this kind of a special title. It just didn't land well with everyone. And I think the biggest issue was actually them releasing it on consoles when it should have been more so on PC and then maybe on consoles later on. But that's neither here nor there. The big question is in this segment of the show, is what happened to Tom Clancy's End War? And will we ever see a continuation of this franchise at some point or another in the future? So let's talk about it. So guys, according to Tom Clancy's End War page on Wikipedia, obviously, Tom Clancy's End War is a real-time tactics game designed by Ubisoft Shanghai for the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Windows platforms. It was released, guys, in 2008, and a sequel was in the works here, but due to the game's commercial failure, it was officially canceled on February 8th, 2010. So we'll get into that in a sec, but typically speaking, guys, one of two or, two of two reasons why any game series, franchise out there will get canceled or won't have a continuation typically is one of two of these things. Number one is if there's bad reception, like there's really bad reception based around a game, that may spell the demise of a franchise. And number two is lack of good sales is the other reason why, you very well may not see a continuation of a franchise. And if you have both of those things, most likely, there's no way that that franchise is going to go anywhere in the future. So if we look down further, guys, as far as the reception is concerned for this game, End War received mixed to positive reviews. The Guardian gave the game a 4 out of 5. It was praised for its highly addictive solo play. The game comes into its own with the massively multiplayer online theater of war. While being docked somewhat for occasional voice recognition blip, the website GameTrailers.com gave End War a 9 out of 10, saying that it was console strategy done right. IGN rated End War as an 8 out of 10, taking marks away for the uninspired single-player campaign, but still saw it as a more than solid RTS. GameSpot's Kevin Van Ord rated the PS3 version of End War as a 7.5 out of 10, praising its innovative voice command mechanic and stating persistent online campaign makes matches feel meaningful, but berated it for its lack of story and simple rock, paper, scissors skirmishes. One Up and Electronic Gaming Monthly both gave the game a C. So let's put it this way. As a whole, some people really love this game, others didn't. It's a mixed bag here. So when you say like the reception spelt the demise of this franchise, I wouldn't say it was that whatsoever, guys. I would say that a lot of games out there will get mixed to positive reviews, and usually if they get those, a lot of times they actually will get a continuation. But number two, though, guys, is the sales here. So a sequel to the game was confirmed to be in the early stages of development by Ubisoft's creative director, Michael DePlater, in an interview with VideoGamer.com. A small team from Ubisoft Shanghai is in charge of the development, he said, and is concentrating on two areas of improvement: single-player story and depth. He could not, however, place a date as to when more information on the sequel would be released. On February 8th, 2010, it was announced that the development of the sequel was canceled due to the game's commercial failure. On September 10th, 2013, Ubisoft announced that Ubisoft Shanghai is working on N-War Online for Windows and OS X, a browser-based free-to-play online, multiplayer online battle arena game, which was released in 2014. However, it was shut down indefinitely on October 31st, 2016. So the problem here is, guys, they tried a couple of things. Not only did they try, to get a sequel off the ground, but because of the commercial failure, guys. I mean, look, when I remember seeing the marketing, I thought the marketing was good. But at the time, people were starting to move in a direction of shooters. People liked playing shooters at this point in time. Those were on the rise. The real-time strategy genre was kind of on the decline as far as we know it back then. And I just think that, between it not being a game that was based solely on really the PC, it was like a PC game that went to consoles. It was more so the other way around. I think it was kind of behind in certain areas, whereas in other areas, I thought it was ahead of everybody else, like the voice activation or voice recognition, controls in the game were beyond its time, in my opinion. And they also tried N-War Online, free-to-play multiplayer, guys, and it just didn't work out, right? And it was shut down in 2016, a couple years after it was launched. And so it was really unfortunate, guys, that not only did it was a commercial failure, but then obviously N-War Online didn't do well enough for them to, continue even keeping that afloat. And it's really unfortunate because I think that there was definitely something here with N-War as a whole. I felt that personally, this was a game that could have become a massive franchise in the RTS genre, especially because when you look at the RTS genre as a whole, there's not a lot of really great RTS games that come out on a consistent basis. This could have joined the ranks of like StarCraft and, other games like that, but it obviously just did not hit with everyone in the right areas, and it was beyond its time. And maybe it was beyond its time to a fault. And that's just like the honest, and unfortunate truth to Tom Clancy's N-War. Will we ever get N-War 2? Guys, the chances of it are very slim. Not only because I would say that if they ever wanted to bring it back from the grave, they may just do like a free-to-play model like they did with N-War Online, but they already did that. And so they already been there, they've done that, and so now Ubisoft is probably moving on to other projects, and it's pretty obvious, right? I mean, it just, when you think about it, Ubisoft is only going to be able to work on so much, and obviously they don't want to take unnecessary risk when they've got these huge other IPs out there, even games like Splinter Cell that they haven't brought back that probably would make more money than N-War. They've got Assassin's Creed, Rainbow Six, and Far Cry, and the list goes on, that would do way better than N-War, where they could put their resources and time elsewhere. It's unfortunate, guys. I loved N-War just as much as pretty much anyone else. I saw the flaws there. I felt it was beyond its time. It didn't land well with everyone because it was mixed reviews, but the real problem was the commercial failure that the game was not making them money. They spent a lot of money, most likely on marketing and things of that nature. It was an expensive game to make, and they just didn't make enough off of it to justify a sequel. So that's pretty much what happened here to end War, guys. I'm hoping at some point or another we may get a game that maybe not necessarily exactly like End War, but something that's kind of a spiritual successor maybe. Maybe they do it right this time. I think the RTS genre needs to be based more so on PC, and then you can bring it potentially after it's as its success on PC to consoles, because we've seen games like even Halo Wars and such just haven't really registered that well with people out there, being a game based on console. But that being said, guys, what do you guys think happened to Tom Clancy's End War? Do you think the series will ever come back? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Tom Clancy's End War content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. The hype is starting to build, guys, around a title that people are hoping comes out sooner rather than later, and that being Fallout 5. Obviously, guys, people have a very mixed reaction when we talk about Fallout 76, and Look, at the end of the day, guys, I personally did not like Fallout 76. I liked what they were trying to do, kind of creating like a multiplayer element to this franchise, more so like almost like a Fallout Online. And we look at other games that Bethesda, has helmed, that being like Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls Online is something that's getting updates on a consistent basis, and I think that's what they wanted Fallout 76 to be. But at the end of the day, it just didn't land well with everyone, and there were so many controversies around this game. So now people are starting to look at, what's the future of this franchise? What's the future of Fallout, guys? And I think that, as we talk about Fallout 5, a true continuation of this franchise, I think there's things that we can take and leave with Fallout 76 moving into Fallout 5. So in this last segment of the show, I want to talk about everything that we want out of Fallout 5. So let's get into it. Guys, obviously, I want to hear your thoughts on what you guys want to see in Fallout 5 as well, right? This is going to be one man's thoughts. Some of you may agree, some of you may disagree. Let me know what you guys want to see in the comment section down below. So, coming in at number 1 for me, guys, I want to see a true continuation, a true, a full-blown campaign, of course, a true follow-up here to Fallout 4. And I want to see that, that continuation. I think some of the big things that we're obviously going to want in that, follow-up to Fallout 4 is obviously you want to have differences, but you also want to have similarities. You want it to still feel like Fallout. You still want it to still have that DNA that makes Fallout. And so that being, guys, you're going to want to see similar characters, but you're also going to want to see some new characters. We're going to want to see new locations. We're going to like seeing maybe some existing locations or places that look somewhat similar to other Fallout games. We're going to want to see different enemies as well, which is a big part, to me as well, is seeing new enemies, seeing the evolution of enemies, as well as seeing some existing ones from, previous installments in the franchise. So I think seeing new locations, new enemies, new characters, but also having existing characters, existing enemies, existing locations is also a good idea as well. I think that a direct follow-up to Fallout 4 would be a great idea, guys, as far as the story is concerned. Who knows where they want to go? I kind of partially want them to kind of surprise me personally as far as with Fallout 5, because I think, I want Bethesda to kind of have, whatever their vision is for this franchise, I want them to do what it is that they want. I want them to surprise me, whether that being, a completely new story, if that's what it's going to be, or, a completely new side story, or if it's going to be something that's set years before, years after Fallout 4. Whatever it is, guys, I want them to surprise me at the end of the day. And the other thing for me, guys, is when I said earlier that I would like to see some of the things that they can take from Fallout 76, one of those being the multiplayer side of things. I think that there's nothing wrong with having multiplayer built into a game like this, right? It justifies more so than just having one, game mode or another. Like, I'll give you an example. Fallout 76 being primarily a multiplayer experience, right? I don't think that justifies us paying the $60 price tag for the game. I feel that if it was a multiplayer experience as well as a story experience as well as a co-op experience, and it's all these different things built in, then that justifies a $60 price tag. But when you're just one game mode, it just doesn't justify it for me. And the same on the flip side of this could be something like Fallout 4 is just a campaign essentially. So what I'm getting at here, guys, is I want a full package deal out of Fallout 5. I want there to be multiplayer modes, co-op modes, a single player story if I want to, a co-op campaign if I want to do it that way. Multiple ways you can connect with the franchise, I think, is going to be really important moving into Fallout 5. Now, obviously, guys, updated graphics are going to be something that we're, going to become accustomed to with the next-gen consoles, and I think that Fallout 5 is going to do a really good job at really creating, new elements and kind of evolving with the times as the, the next generation of consoles comes out, and I'm really excited about that as well. I think that having the new graphics and such could really create a breathtaking environment for us to explore. And that gets me to the next thing, which is having that full open world, guys, once again, like we had, of course, in Fallout 4, having that, that grand landscape, being able to explore as much as you possibly want, having the customizable options, guys, throughout the world and such, I think is going to be really important. I liked many of those things, being able to just explore for hours upon hours on end, guys, I thought was really an interesting ordeal. And just, it gives you so much to do. I'd like to see an evolution of more side missions. I'd like to see an evolution of, the fast travel and such if you decide to do it that way. Whatever it is, guys, whether you do fast travel or you decide to go ahead and just explore things on your own, if you decide to just do things on your own and not do the fast travel, I want there to be a lot of things that you can do along your journey throughout the course of the game. I think that would be really special as well. And when I was talking about customization, guys, that also leads into co-op and multiplayer. Being able to customize your character, customize weaponry, customize all of those different things, guys, whether you're talking from a multiplayer perspective, co-op perspective, or if you're just playing on your own, having ways you can customize your character, I think would be absolutely awesome. Moving, into this game, all the different things, guys, that they could do, all the different directions that they could go with Fallout 5. I just want there to be emphasis on certain things. I want there to be more emphasis on earnable items and customization items than that of being like microtransactions and things of that nature. I really think, guys, especially if this is going to be a pay-to-play experience, I want there to be more earnable items. I think way too many games nowadays focus more on microtransactions than earnable items from just putting a bunch of time into the game. When you're looking at the leaderboard or you're in an in-game lobby and you see everyone else in there, there's something about seeing the items or the emblems and the titles and such that people have, like the ranks that they are in multiplayer, and you see where they're at and you get to see like how far and how much time they've put into the game and such. There's something about that, and then you get to witness like the customization items and the earnable items outside of the microtransactions. I don't really have a huge issue with microtransactions. I just think they shouldn't be deceptive to the consumer. And the other part of that is that I don't think that should take away from the earnable items, because a lot of times, guys, the earnable items, a lot of times, in my opinion, are way cooler than of the microtransactions, and it shows that you've put time into the game. So that would pretty much round out everything that I want, guys, out of Fallout 5. I mean, I'm sure there's other things, guys. We could bring up free-to-play. Could they do a free-to-play? Or segments of Fallout 5 that are free to play. We could do that. I just don't think Bethesda is going to go in that direction with this title, making it a free to play game. If they did anything like that, maybe the multiplayer would be free to play or have free to play weekends or something along those lines. I don't think that the full package, though, would be free to play, but that's a discussion for another day. Let me know, guys, what are the things that you want out of Fallout 5? Are they similar to what I'm saying? Are they different? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Fallout 5 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.